Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Many older adults worry about their memory and the other abilities of their brain. For instance, they may find it's taking longer to learn something new, or maybe they're forgetting to pay their bills once in a while. Well, is this normal forgetfulness, or is this something else? So this episode is designed to help you identify the difference between Alzheimer's and normal brain aging. So welcome to my episode, Is This Normal Brain Aging or Alzheimer's Disease? Hi, my name is Jerry Hickey. I'm a nutritional pharmacist. I'm the Senior Scientific Officer over here at Invite Health, and thank you for tuning into today's Invite Health podcast. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen, or go to invitehealth.com/podcast. We have over 300 episodes at this point up on our website. Please subscribe. Please leave us a review. I'd love to know how I'm doing. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. The info on this episode is linked at the episode description. So, let's get into it. Mild forgetfulness and absent-mindedness is often a normal part of aging, not a sign of a serious memory problem. Fortunately, on a yearly basis, only a tiny percentage of people with what would be perceived as normal age-related memory loss will convert to dementia. It's very rare. Now, last Friday, my wife asked me, "What day is this?" If I had asked that question, I would have been terrified because I'm still working. I have a rigorous radio schedule, making it pretty impossible for me to forget the day, the time, or even the date. My wife, however, is retired, and Friday is pretty much like Wednesday and Thursday. It's pretty much like every other day of the week. So a lapse for a second, normal, no big deal. Everybody forgets something, especially when we're distracted or busy. This may happen more often as we get older. Mild memory loss is a normal part of aging, not something to worry about. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to develop dementia. So everybody, as we age, we can have some senior moments, as they call it. Dementia is pretty not so common. Well, let's not put it in that light. It's not as common as you think it is. So if memory loss makes it hard for you to carry out your daily tasks, well, now you have a sign that shouldn't be ignored. So, for instance, are you forgetting something you just heard? A big clue that it's something worse is asking the same question over and over again. That's a big clue that the memory is having a real problem. Relying on a number of notes to get through your day, well, that's a clue. If you or your family is noticing these things happening to you, you really need to talk to your doctor. Another clue, it's not just normal memory loss. If you're struggling to do things like follow directions on something very familiar to you, like a loved recipe, or you can't keep track of things such as paying your bills the way you used to, it could be a warning sign of memory problems. Now, according to the National Institute on Aging, a way to tell the difference between normal brain aging and a serious memory problem is that a serious problem makes it hard to do everyday things like driving and shopping. So signs can include asking the same question over and over again. That's a big sign. Getting lost in familiar places. So there's a supermarket you like to go to, and you're getting lost in the aisles. You just can't follow a normal procedure like you used to. Not being able to follow instructions. Becoming confused about time, people, places. I mean, if you go to the National Institute on Aging, which is part of the National Institutes of Health, it'll spell these out for you. They have like a planogram. So if you have problems with your daily typical activities, forgetting how to drive to your favorite and very familiar supermarket and having trouble finding your way around in the aisles in a very familiar store, it could be a sign of a more serious memory issue. Now, it's normal to forget where you parked your car, especially if you're rushing when you parked or you're distracted when you're parking. But if it happens regularly, check with your doctor. That could be a sign of dementia. Most of the time when you forget where you've left something, you should be able to retrace your steps and find whatever it is. Now, for me, it's usually my glasses, but people, my eyeglasses, but people commonly complain about, where did I leave my keys? Now, if you notice you're frequently losing things and you can't retrace your steps to find them, that's a sign of a bigger memory issue. So, for instance, when I put my glasses down to take a shower in the morning before my radio program, sometimes I'm rushing and I'm like, I just retrace my steps, I find my glasses. But if you can't do that, that could be a sign it's something more serious. Now, walking into a room and not remembering why, common, no issue, no biggie. On the other hand, individuals with Alzheimer's, they can forget where they are. Am I home? They don't know. They realize they are somewhere and don't remember how they got there. That's another bad sign. All of a sudden you're in the supermarket and you don't remember going there. If that's a problem you have, it's really a good idea to get an evaluation. They have different kinds of memory tests and brain function tests. Now, it's normal to have trouble finding the right words sometimes, especially if you're tired or you're busy and there's multiple things going on or you're stressed out. But in people with Alzheimer's, they have trouble talking and writing. They might find it hard to recall the right term for a familiar object, such as a glass, a bicycle, an umbrella, or the name of somebody that they know very well, like a cousin. They're struggling with names, they're struggling with words, they're struggling with what to say next. These are signs of more serious memory loss. So the National Institute on Aging in their website has a great infographic. You can download it. Here is what it lists. Differences between normal aging and Alzheimer's disease. Normal aging, making a bad decision once in a while. Alzheimer's disease, making poor judgments and decisions frequently. Normal aging, missing a monthly payment. Alzheimer's disease, problems taking care of monthly bills. Big difference there. You can't keep track. Normal aging, forgetting which day it is and remembering it in a short amount of time. Alzheimer's disease, losing track of the date or the time of year, like what season is it. Normal aging, sometimes forgetting which word to use. Alzheimer's disease, you can't even have a conversation. You're having trouble having a conversation. Normal aging, losing things from time to time. Alzheimer's disease, misplacing things often and being unable to find them because you can't retrace your steps because you don't remember where you went in your house when you put down your glass of wine or your water or your glasses or your keys. Now, what do you do if your memory is okay but you're still concerned? Well, use your brain. It's like your muscles. You don't use it and you lose it. So read good stuff. I'm planning on learning an instrument if I ever retire. I'm a little bit of a percussionist, but I want to learn organ and piano. Sing, why not? It's great for the brain. Solve puzzles. Be very social. A good reason to meet your neighbors because loneliness is terrible for your brain. A study came out recently that people that are lonely in midlife, they have a much higher risk of Alzheimer's if they don't make up for that somehow and get rid of the loneliness. Now, exercise is great for the brain. It's great for circulation to your brain. It's great for brain health. It's good for heart health, of course. But it's also a stress reducer. Stress triggers the release of cortisol, a stress hormone. Now, a little bit of that once in a while is good for the brain, actually. But if you're chronically stressed and you're chronically releasing this, it is bad for your brain. It makes you can make inroads into the brain that lead to depression, actually. An option if you're stressed, a very safe option that I use because, I have a lot of deadlines with the radio and doing podcasts and writing, etc. Ltheanine. It comes from the green tea plant. You take one capsule and the stress melts away and it doesn't make you tired. It doesn't make you foggy-brained. It's not addictive. It's very safe. In fact, if I have a lot going on and then I have to sit down and write a scientific paper or something, and my mind is too jumbled, too busy, too excited, I'll take an Ltheanine to calm down my brain, and that actually helps me focus, and that actually helps with my creativity. Now let's talk about some foods and some supplements that are great for the brain. You can email me. I'll send you the Mind Diet. The Mind Diet was the Rush Institute over in Chicago, and in their studies they found it really had an impact on lowering the risk of dementia. So they took the best of the DASH diet. The DASH diet was created to help prevent heart disease and help to deal with high blood pressure. And they mixed that with the best of the Mediterranean diet. I actually added my thoughts to it because they left out things like green tea and cocoa, real cocoa. We're not talking about the cocoa you get in the supermarket. We're talking about a cleaner cocoa that would be sold as a supplement. So there's the Mind Diet. Give me an email, jhickey@invitehealth.com. I'll send it to you, but you could find it very easily on the internet. Now, beets are good for the brain. Beets have nitrates, and they have these very powerful reddish antioxidants called beta-lanes and beta-cyanins that are fantastic for your heart and your circulation and physical performance, but they also help restore circulation to your brain. Circulation to the brain declines with age. That's terrible for the brain because as circulation declines, I always tell people, picture the brain cells as a bunch of grapes. There's a stem feeding a whole bunch of grapes. Well, that's kind of like the little blood vessels of the brain. They don't feed one brain cell. A number of brain cells will feed off of them. So if one blood vessel dies because of poor circulation and an increase in inflammation that comes out of that, a whole group of memory cells can die. So when you take beets, and another one is tart cherry, the Montmorency tart cherry. A Montmorency tart cherry has anthocyanins, these beautiful reddish orangish pigments. They help restore circulation to an aging brain, just like cocoa would, and also the supplement resveratrol. In fact, that's probably the most vasoactive supplement. I speak about resveratrol frequently on my radio programs. It helps keep the blood-brain barrier in the brain functioning, and that's cool. The blood-brain barrier is just like extra insulation on the blood vessels in the brain to prevent things that are toxic from leaving the blood and getting into the brain. And the blood-brain barrier develops gaps in the junctions between the cells with age, so it gets a little bit leaky with age, and bad things can exit the blood and get into the brain, and that's no good. So resveratrol has been shown to help repair the blood-brain barrier, but it's very good for restoring circulation to an aging brain. A recent study in aging women, postmenopausal women, when they gave them resveratrol every day, it restored circulation to their brain by 17%. Now, Harvard did a study trying to gauge how much circulation declines in the general public. Of course, it would be worse in alcoholics, it would be worse in diabetics who don't take care of their blood sugar, and it would be worse in smokers. But in the general population, circulation to the brain generally declines between 10 to 14%, according to that one Harvard study. And after resveratrol restored circulation to the aging brain by 17%, well, you beat that, didn't you? You've actually improved circulation. Sleep is very important for your brain and memory. When you release melatonin when it's getting dark, that sets the stage for deep, deep slumber. And when you go into deep sleep, a whole bunch of things happen in the brain. The lymphatic system activates to break down plaques and remove them. And another thing that happens is you consolidate memories. In the daytime, when you learn something new, like right now, if you're learning something new from me, I hope you are, you store that in a temporary storage site called a hippocampus. And that's vulnerable to damage. You can lose those memories. But at night, when you go to sleep, you shift those memories out of the hippocampus and into the long-term storage site, so you can still remember things that you learned today 3 months from now. So sleep is really important for memory. Plus, the second thing happens. If you don't sleep deeply at night, the hippocampus, the short-term storage site for memories, literally gets clogged, and there's no place to learn something new the next day. So sleep is really important. If you're not sleeping, think about melatonin, because not only is it great for your memory, it's great for your immune system, so your immune system functions better the next day. A whole bunch of studies shows it reduces chronic pain the next day. It helps build bone at night. It's needed to build bone at night. So it heals the digestive tract. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that the melatonin achieves for you. Hearing. We did a whole episode on hearing. There's a lot of research now that losing hearing in older people is connected to dementia, and it's a pretty strong connection. And what they think it might be, the hypothesis, is areas of the brain that are responsible for doing other things are now being repurposed to help you hear and decipher conversations, and the brain suffers. So if you've lost hearing, it really is important to get a hearing aid. The new hearing aids, you can't really see them. They Bluetooth on the computer so they could adjust them, so they could get rid of loud banging noises like in a restaurant and help you with conversational hearing. I mean, they're really good. They're really good. There's also genes involved with Alzheimer's, but the most prominent one is the ApoE4 gene. Now, all of these things I'm talking about, we've done separate episodes on. Tart cherry, beets, sleep and memory, hearing and memory, the ApoE4 gene. The ApoE4, you have three versions of this gene that we know of. ApoE2, which seems to protect you from Alzheimer's. ApoE3, which is the most common variant of this gene, which is a wash. It doesn't seem to cause Alzheimer's and it doesn't seem to protect you. And then there's the ApoE4 gene that increases the risk of Alzheimer's disease. So why would you get tested for this? Because it's rather scary to know you have it. Because you could fight back. If you start exercising, you start getting your sleep at night, you start eating all your vegetables and doing things like this and taking certain supplements, you can help lower the risk of your increased risk of Alzheimer's because you have that particular gene. And here's a for instance why you would want to get tested. There was a study on green tea, and it showed that people with the ApoE4 gene that increased their risk of Alzheimer's, if they drank a lot of high quality green tea, it seemed to take away that increased risk. I mean, why not have some green tea? It's very good for your brain. It's good for your heart. You have to get the following under control to help prevent severe memory loss. Your blood pressure. Why? Well, when your blood pressure is elevated, it's flying around your blood vessels and it's banging into them, especially where they twist and turn, and it's damaging them, and it can kill little blood vessels in the brain. They're called capillaries. And like I said before, these little blood vessels feed a cluster of brain cells. So if one breaks, a bunch of cells are dead. We all have a certain level of microvascular damage with age, but it's the extent that counts. So getting your blood pressure under control is a proven way to lower your risk of Alzheimer's, and of course it's a proven way to help prevent strokes also. Your blood sugar. Elevated blood sugar inflames the brain. There's a lot of evidence that people who do not take care of their diabetes or pre-diabetes have a much higher risk of Parkinson's disease, a movement disorder in the back of the brain, which also has Parkinson's dementia, by the way, Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia, and stroke, and also mild cognitive impairment. Now, mild cognitive impairment, you could still function in society. There's definite loss of brain function and memory function and executive function. But the problem is most people with mild cognitive impairment will eventually go right into full-blown Alzheimer's disease. So getting your blood sugar and your blood pressure under control. You have to get your cholesterol under control because the bad cholesterol, it's not really bad. You need it for a lot of activities, but it's easily damaged, and then it inflames you and it leads to heart disease, and heart disease damages the brain. Obesity is a risk factor for Alzheimer's. I would add to that uric acid. Elevated uric acid, especially in conjunction with these other risk factors for heart disease, is no good for the brain. Elevated triglycerides. Triglycerides are a kind of greasy fat just like cholesterol, but there's not enough value being placed on them by the medical community. They are dangerous when they're elevated. They lead to strokes. They infiltrate your heart and they inflame the heart and they could cause blood clots. They infiltrate your liver. Now we're finding they infiltrate your kidneys and your lungs. So I would add triglycerides to that. And chronic low-grade inflammation, a blood test called HSCRP. We have episodes on each one of these things. When you have chronic low-grade inflammation, it's inflaming your blood vessels. It leads to all kinds of damage, including strokes, heart attacks, sudden cardiac death. Air pollution is a challenge. I mean, if you live in a city or you're near a highway or something and there's a certain level of air pollution, it's been proven to be very damaging in many ways to the liver, to the kidneys, to the heart, but also to the brain. And I don't think you're exactly going to move, but what you could do is get real cocoa. Studies out of the University of Montana at Missoula, a series of studies shows that cocoa very quickly offsets the damage caused by inhaling air pollution. See, the air pollution that you inhale, it's called fine particulate matter. There's very little particles, and you inhale it, it's inflaming the lungs, but then it's very easily solubilized into the blood, and from the lungs the blood goes into the heart, and the heart's pumping that pollution all over the body, and it's very toxic. Cocoa has been shown to offset that inflammation in the brain and in the heart, and also B vitamins, believe it or not. Quit smoking. Ugh, it's horrible for the brain. Now, you need your B vitamins. You need your fish oils, your vitamin C, your zinc, your magnesium. You need lutein. We have a lot of episodes on these. Lutein is dynamic for the brain. Lutein is a pigment in green leafy vegetables. It's actually an orangey, amber, reddish color. You can't see it because the green stuff, the chlorophyll, disguises it, but it's in there. So it's in your spinach and your broccoli and all those great vegetables. Problem is, as you grow older, it's hard to absorb lutein from your food. So I tell people you need a natural lutein supplement. I take one every day. I take 10 milligrams of lutein mixed with some DHA, which is a fish oil, really important for the brain, mixed with 2 milligrams of zeaxanthin. Zeaxanthin's a yellowish pigment, and they're really important for your eyes, but they're also really important for your brain. Zinc, have to emphasize that. It's harder for adults to absorb, older adults to absorb zinc from their food. Zinc is needed for so many important functions: the immune system, healing, digesting your food, controlling your blood sugar. But zinc attaches to something called SOD, a super wonderful enzymatic antioxidant, and it creates, it's partially responsible for creating SOD type 1 and SOD type 3 in the brain. These protect the brain from damage, and as you grow older, their levels really start to plummet. By the time you're 55, they're dropping. By the time you're 65, they're pretty much gone. So getting zinc into you helps restore SOD function in the brain to shield your brain. Fish oils, it's harder to absorb them with age. Plus, if you're on a statin drug, it reduces the amount of fish oils in your body. Statin drugs are used to lower your cholesterol. So I always like older people to eat a lot of fish, like 3 times a week, or take a fish oil supplement, or my preference is krill, because there's other things in krill that are amazing for your brain. Now, homocysteine is terrible for the brain. It's been connected to developing Alzheimer's disease. Homocysteine is a byproduct of protein metabolism. You need an active form of folate and B12 to lower that. So when I create multivitamins, I use this form of folate. I don't use the synthetic folic acid. I use methyl tetrahydrofolate. That's the active form of folic acid. They usually use synthetic folic acid. I'm using methyl tetrahydrofolate. That reduces homocysteine in the brain, and also the active form of B12 called methylcobalamin. Normally in a multivitamin they use cyanocobalamin. These lower homocysteine in the brain. Study after study shows that homocysteine in the brain increases your risk of Alzheimer's disease, or minimally will lead to mild cognitive impairment, which is a gateway to Alzheimer's disease. Then there's brain boosters like Alcar with ALA. These are 2 nutrients that belong in your brain. Their activity declines with age. Well, taking a supplement of that is like a tonic for your brain. It does so many things for your brain. Look up our episode on Alcar with ALA and brain health. It's a rather amazing supplement. And once again, I can send you the Mind Diet, or you can fish it out yourself on the internet. The Mind Diet puts together the DASH diet, and the best of the DASH diet for controlling blood pressure, and the best of the Mediterranean diet. And it's been proven to really help keep your brain functioning well deep into old age. The thing is, if you get it from me, if you email me, I'll give you some tips on how to even make it better that they didn't consider when they put it together. My email is jhickey@invitehealth.com. So thank you for tuning into the Invite Health Podcast. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts, or just visit invitehealth.com/podcast. Please make sure that you subscribe. Please leave me a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health Today. Hope to see you next time on another episode of the Invite Health Podcast, and thank you so much for listening. Jerry Hickey signing off.